Good evening, everybody. I'd like to welcome you to the September 12th voting session of the Keystone Central School District Board of Directors. We're going to start this meeting out with a salute to the flag and a moment of silence.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Dr. Baldino,
Here.
Mr. Cannon,
Here.
Ms. Donahue,
Here.
Mr. Elling,
Present.
Mr. Johnson,
Here.
Mr. Knopf, Ms. Lynch. Here. Mr. Scott,
Here.
Ms. Smith. Here. 8 members present.
Okay. So, okay. All right. So let's start off with hearing of the visitors, and I see we have some individuals signing up. Danielle Valley. Oh, okay.
That's fine.
Oh boy. Okay, before we proceed with this, I do need, I need that paper. Okay, I do need to read this. Okay, the Keystone Central Board of Directors encourages public comment from its citizens. Each community member may speak for a period of no longer than 4 minutes per board policy. Please understand that this is not a time for dialogue with the board, rather for the board to listen to all comments and consider them in future deliberations. Our individual email addresses are on the website. If you'd like to contact your individual board representative, we ask that you please direct comments and complaints of a personal nature regarding an individual employee directly to the superintendent. Okay, just let you know, 4 minutes. Okay, thank you very much. Go ahead, Danielle.
Hi, I'm a parent that resides in Sugar Valley. We bought our house in 2008, excited for our children to attend Sugar Valley Elementary. Just a few years later, this school was closed by the district. Our school closed right before our third son was going to kindergarten. When it closed, we were promised safe and reasonable transportation. Is 3+ hours a day on a bus reasonable? That same son came back to the district this year to pursue welding in the VOTEC program. His bus comes at 7 o'clock and it arrives at school at 8 o'clock. However, our youngest son has a much different pickup and drop-off time because he attends Walnut Street Christian School. He is supposed to get on the bus at 5:05 a.m. and the bus arrives at school at 7:55 a.m. That's a few minutes short of 3 hours on the bus each way. To put that in perspective, that's the same time it takes to get to Newark Airport in New Jersey, and that's just one way. The school informed me that the first pickup is actually at 4:45 a.m., even before our son gets on the bus. When the weather gets bad and we have delays and it's not called until 5:30, my son will already be on the bus. I appreciate Dr. Redmond and Shelley Ott addressing this issue last week, but I wanted you to hear from a family in this district that it directly affects. I have reached out to both of them about transportation concerns, and I have contacted our board member. I received a response that transportation wanted to know who informed me of this bus time. I have never received official times from transportation for my child that attends Walnut Street. I've only received this information from the bus driver. Our board member reached out to Dr. Redmond and received this response. We transport students from Inova to SVRCS and from Sugar Valley to Avis, which is our longest run. The earliest pickup is 5:40 a.m. and the last drop off is 5:05 p.m. This time relayed to our board representative is incorrect. But either way, that's 2 to 3 hours each way for our son to go to school. Why is the transportation for a private school student longer than any other route in the district? Is this fair to any of our students? What is the solution? Our children are not only the only children with very early pickup times and hours upon hours on the bus each day. More families than not are struggling with getting their children to school, being late for work, maneuvering through very congested parking lots, and trying to figure out how this is going to work long-term. When I opened up the district webpage, why aren't we advertising for bus drivers? There's a link that connects substitutes. So why aren't we advertising for bus drivers? I did notice there are signs in the school lawns for Susquehanna Transit, but why isn't it advertised on our webpage or social media? How are we appealing to people to apply? Are we offering the wages that people deserve to keep children safe every day, especially during bad weather? If it has become too difficult to get people to apply, to get their CDL, why don't we offer vans? Vans would be less gas and it wouldn't require a CDL. Jersey Shore hires multiple busing companies. Have we considered hiring a second busing company? I only live a few miles from the Center County line. Maybe we can get a busing company from that direction. I don't think there's an easy solution to this issue, and I don't think we're going to find a solution this evening, but this should be top of everybody's list. How do we expect children to be able to focus and learn when they're getting up at 4:30 in the morning? How do we expect people to want to be bus drivers when they have to get up in the middle of the night? Another issue is the routes go in reverse. So the first kid picked up in the morning is the last kid dropped off at night. So they're on the bus the longest. Why is the Sugar Valley bus going to outlying areas, making our kids on the bus the longest for those attending both Keystone Central schools and private schools? It is also an issue in Beech Creek as well, with those kids being transported to Walnut Street. What has changed recently that has caused such a long bus ride for students in our district, specifically Sugar Valley and Beech Creek students? Have routes been combined? Has funding been cut? How do we fix it? Because the routes last year are at least an hour difference this year. I appreciate your time and your attention to this matter, but ultimately this is about the students of this district, and we're not providing reasonable transportation. Thank you.
Thank you, Danielle. Okay, next up, Senator Dush.
Thank you. I want to thank the board for what you do, as well as the teachers who are here who are working for these students. I'm here to address policy number 103, 103.1, and 104 that are being proposed as a result of President Biden's executive order and what came down through the federal government. We live in a republic that has been designed as a contract between the people and the government that they hire. Specifically, Article 1, Section 4 of the U.S. Constitution declares that every state shall have a Republican form of government. And if you look, every single sports franchise in the world has copied that form of government. You have the franchise owners. In Pennsylvania's case, we, the people of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, grateful to Almighty God for the blessings of civil and religious liberty, and humbly invoking His guidance, do ordain and establish this Constitution. Just like any covenant contract, the parties are named first. Second article in those contracts is the purpose of the contract. That's Article 1, our Bill of Rights. As relates to sports franchises that have been copied after over 200 years of successful governance, the Rules Committee are selected from among the people. And that Rules Committee, in the case of the legislature, the body that makes law, is the legislature. Locally, that is you, the board members. The legislatures and the school boards, they make the rules, they make the policy. It is not the executive branch. Article 3 is the law, the legislation. Articles 4 and 5 are the executive and judicial. They are literally and figuratively and on purpose under the law. There's a thing called first principles, that if something down below conflicts with something up above, the first principle stands. So when the executive branch, when you have the players and coaches colluding on the field of play to change the rules, you have chaos on the field, the sidelines, and the stands, and in the owner's boxes. What the federal government is doing is usurping the role of the legislature. The definition under the law of what is defined in the law has to stand. It is not gender identity. There is nowhere in the law that identifies gender identity as a piece of, as one of the defined classes. You guys take the same oath I do to support and defend the Constitution. When I was, now as, the committee, on the Committee for Veterans Affairs, I talked to my, general officer wannabes, the people who are about to be, confirmed for general officer. And I asked them, I described what happened when I was talking to my troops. I told them, if the governor or the president activates you to come in and do something like arm up and go out and take people's weapons, you've got a responsibility to not only not comply, but to ensure that the person that gave that order doesn't have the ability to effectuate that. I told told him that once when my base commander was there, and I said, sir, I will come in, I will arm up, but I'll be putting in handcuffs the person that gave me the order. Colonel Dutton just smiled and said, Sergeant Dush, I don't have any doubt you'd do it, but they'll relieve me of command before it gets to that point. Every one of those since I've been in the Senate, every general officer wannabe or somebody that's getting their second star has had to affirm that they would not comply with an unlawful order, and they recognize it as an unlawful order. What this executive branch is doing through the proposals and trying to coerce you into passing this is an unlawful order. They don't have the ability to enforce it. That's why people are not getting their funds cut on Title IX issues. And they know it. This U.S. Supreme Court, I'm sure, will stand for the rule of law. So with that, I'm asking you to stand on your oath. When you took that oath, that you would stand on that oath and not bow to the executive branch in what is an unlawful edict from their department. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Roger, can I ask him a quick question?
Sure.
From what, excuse my voice, from what you're saying, if we don't follow Title IX, will we lose our funding?
So far, they have not done that. And with the recent court ruling regarding Moms for Liberty, actually, and my understanding is now that you have in this school district people who are members of Moms for Liberty. So that's another reason why you can stand on that and say, look, we have members of Moms for Liberty who are in here. But regardless, until the U.S. Supreme Court makes a decision, they don't have a leg to stand on because it is under appeal. And the law is what the law is. So I don't see them doing it, especially not with an election coming up here right now. And they don't know what's going to happen after that.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, Representative Borowitz, you're up.
I don't have much to say. I think Senator Dush covered it, but I will, I guess, take just a second and express exactly what Senator Dush did. He did answer the question. I was wanted to clear up the Title IX funding, that they will threaten that just like the mask mandate, but there is no weight behind that because it's never happened before. And this is about protecting women. And so we're just asking you, we fight this at the state level quite often. And so this is about protecting women and the issue of our children and women in the schools. And so it's such an important issue. That's why we wanted to come tonight. And just, we were asking you to, it is completely unconstitutional. So the executive branch has no ability to make law. That is the legislative branch, as Senator Dush said. And so it's very clear cut. The executive branch cannot do an executive order that creates law. It's unconstitutional based on that. And then we won't even go into the moral aspect of allowing boys into women's restrooms or biological men into women's locker rooms. I will go into that. You know, there's a moral issue at our schools to stand up for what's right when it comes to putting biological men in women's restrooms, biological men in women's locker rooms. You will have an issue on your hands. You will have a lawsuit on your hands. So we're asking you to stand up. I've done it over and over again, several bills in the House to protect women's sports and protect the women in our area. So thank you guys. Thanks for being a part of the school board. All you guys, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you both for being here this evening.
Yeah.
Speak into your mic, will you?
I deeply appreciate you sharing this with us. This side of the perspective I haven't heard, except those few school districts that have gotten together, but that's a different issue. Do you by chance happen to know any other local school districts that haven't passed these policies because they feel like they need to? Or is there any examples that we can?
I can tell you this on Monday.
Thank you.
I can tell you that on Monday, the Bradford School District shot it down. I was up there for that school board meeting as well. Yes.
Thank you. Very helpful.
Well,
Anybody else? Okay, so thank you, everybody. I appreciate that. Okay, moving on. Committee reports. Policy committee met.
Yeah,
Get an update.
we went over, excuse my voice, a night out with a whole bunch of young kids doing s'mores, didn't cut it. We went over a lot of policies, procedures. We're changing a few of them, which will come up later.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay. All right, so next, there's nothing here, so that's why I skipped over it. All right. All right, let's see here. Okay, Tracy, you wanna?
Okay. I'd like to make a motion that we pass the entirety of the agenda with the exception of any items removed for separate consideration.
Okay. I've got a motion.
I'll
A
second.
second? Second?
Wait,
Yeah.
you want to pass everything without talking about anything?
I said except
Yeah.
for things removed.
Except for
separate
things
consideration.
removed for separate consideration. So if there's something that we want to discuss or pull out, this is the time to pull all those things out now.
To me, we had a lot of policies coming up. that-
Right, so,
Okay.
Are they going to be tabled or are they going to be,
No,
Well,
we'll
we-
go back and we'll visit them one by one if you want to
Yeah,
pull them
we'll
for
go
separate
back. We should,
consideration.
yeah.
I think that,
So-
there were, I didn't see any that were slam dunks when I read through it.
okay, so
I wanna-
which policies would you like to pull?
I want to pull the resolution H.
H2.
Yes,
Huh?
thank you.
Okay,
Under K, number 1, bills for payment.
Chris, are you letting I-1, 2, and 3 go?
No, I was gonna just say that.
okay, so K, what was it again, Chris? K what?
Let's do, I, under policy, 103, 1031, 104.
Okay.
1, 2, 3.
1, 2, and 3.
One, two,
Yeah.
three. Okay,
Excuse me.
Under K, number 1, bills for payment.
okay,
Under L, personnel. That's all I got.
Yeah, I think we should discuss everything except item 10 and 11 in under policies. None of them seem to be straightforward slam dunks to me.
okay, so Chris pulled 1, 2, and 3. Okay, that's 103, 1031, and 104. And what are the other ones that you wanted, Bill?
The only ones that I am not contentious about or think we should discuss, don't need to discuss are items 10 and 11, policy 706.1 and policy 800.
1 through 9, 12, 13, and 14.
I.
Yeah.
Okay. G2, please. Sorry, folks, I-11.
No, that's fine. That's hey, we're here to deal with this, so. it's okay.
Just for clarification, G2 is an information discussion item. It's not something that needs voted on.
Right, but we had asked to see last year's, and it's still not on here, and some of the schools are still missing.
It's
it
like
was-
this every year at the end of summer because we
Uh,
haven't gotten their
Yeah,
initial
because we
enrollment
haven't got the
reports.
actual enrollment from
thank you.
charter school.
Thank you, Tracy. Thank you, Roger.
Not G2.
Disregard.
Okay. Okay, and anything else? Okay, I'd actually like to pull the election. What is it? PSBA officers election,
H1.
H1. All right. So. All right. Anybody have anything else that they would like to pull? No? Okay, so I have a motion and a second on the floor. Can I get you seconded it, okay.
Yeah.
So with that being said, okay, any discussion about anything else during this? No? Okay. Can I get a roll call vote? Please.
Mr. Baldino,
No.
Mr. Cannon,
We're voting in favor of keeping or taking those things out.
No. we're
No, what
voting
we're
to
doing
pass
is
the
we're
rest.
passing everything that we have not pulled.
Okay.
Okay, all those things that we pulled, we're gonna be going over and discussing individually. And
Could
voting
we-
on them
could we-
individually.
Mr. President, or
Yes,
Vice
sir.
President, for, just as a matter of clarification, could we state the motion so everybody understands? I think if we said that we're passing the entire agenda with the exceptions of items H1 and 2, K1, I1 through 9, 12 through 14, and I believe that's it,
L1.
and
L1.
L1
Okay,
Okay. and I11. I'm sorry, it was
I missed
I11 and 14.
okay, so
Okay, does that,
does that
just voting
clarify
on-
for everybody what's going on here?
Yes, that was helpful. Thank
Okay,
you, Jeff.
all right. Okay, so go ahead, continue on.
Cannon,
Yes.
Ms. Donahue,
Yes.
Mr. Elling,
Yes,
Mr. Johnson,
yes.
Mr. Knopf, Ms. Lynch,
Yes.
Mr. Scott,
Yes.
Ms. Smith,
Yes.
seven yes and one no.
okay.
Like,
All right,
To make a
so-
motion that we pass item H1, PSBA officer elections.
Is there a second?
Second,
Okay. Discussion?
Mm.
Okay, I'd actually like to say something.
Mm.
I just love how they say, okay, this is who's gonna be the president and this is who's gonna be the vice president. You don't really have a choice in this. It's kind of ridiculous, but it is what it is at this point, so.
Can we write somebody in?
Yeah, do we know why they do it this way? I mean, I'll be honest with you, it just,
My guess is there's just not a lot of people running, just like,
so is Roger volunteering? Should we write down Roger?
I think that's
If
what
I
we
did-
should
if
do.
If I didn't have to deal with veterans on a daily
I'm
basis, I might.
curious why we even use PSBA.
All right.
So,
Sorry.
all right, but anyway, all right, so, okay, so I've had my little piece,
Mhm.
all right. Anybody else?
Mm-mm.
Okay, go ahead, we'll call vote.
Mr. Cannon,
No.
Ms. Donahue,
Yes.
Mr. Elling,
Yes.
Mr. Johnson,
Yes.
Mr. Knopf, Ms. Lynch,
Yes.
Mr. Scott,
No.
Ms. Smith,
Yes.
Dr. Baldino,
No.
5 yeses and 3 nos.
Next.
I'd like to make a motion to pass H2, the resolution to ensure that all debt service issuance aligns with legal and regulatory requirements under the Local Government Unit Debt Act. And this is in regards to the second bond for the new Liberty Curtin Elementary School.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
I'll second it.
Mr. Johnson got it, Paulie. Sorry. Okay. Discussion?
Yeah.
Okay.
When did the bond go from 9.9 million to 12,155,000?
It didn't.
We have Audrey online with us and she can help explain that, to reiterate what she spoke about in the voting meeting. I'm sorry, in the work session.
Sure.
Yes.
Mhm.
In the work,
Audrey, you're muted.
Yep, Colton's got to let her out.
in the work
Okay.
session, we
Just a
talked
second.
9.9, not 12 million.
Okay, she's
Okay,
trying to get
now you should
unmuted.
be able to unmute.
Did that work?
That worked.
Yay.
Yep.
Okay, somebody helped me out. The resolution is for 12 million. If you have your electronic copy, I think it starts on page 23 where the payment schedule is. Because of the state requirements to file with Department of Community Economic Development, each one of those payments has to be a not to exceed number. So when we actually lock in interest rates and price the bonds, no individual payment can be higher than that. Can everybody hear me?
Yes,
thank
we
you,
can hear
Audrey.
you.
Okay, I just wasn't getting any feedback, so I wanted to make sure. So each payment is a not to exceed number. So they have to be rounded up each payment than what we anticipate it going to be, because as interest rates change, just like your home mortgage, you might have a higher principal payment if the interest rate is lower. So the principal payments might move around when we lock in interest rates. So each payment is shown in this resolution as a higher number than it's actually going to be. And once you add a little cushion into each payment, well, now your 9.9 million looks like 12. The anticipation is not to borrow 12 million. It will be, as we've discussed, 9.9. We want to stay under the $10 million, which was the plan, and also to take advantage of the bank qualified interest rates.
Okay,
So the $12 million number is for the state proceedings that will be filed immediately after acceptance, should you decide to move ahead, but that's not locking in your final payments or interest rates.
So,
Okay.
sorry.
go ahead.
Okay. So Aubrey, does that mean that we're borrowing 9.9 like you presented last week?
Mhm.
But then out of the general fund or somewhere else, we're paying the difference to make it 12
No.
million?
No.
No, we won't actually borrow 12 million. We're going to
Right, I
borrow
understand.
9.9. The 12 million figure that you see there is strictly for filing with the state. That document that you see. Unfortunately, the Debt Act was written a really long time ago and they have not updated it. And the way they've written the law, we can't go over by a penny on any line item. So that's why we have to round them all up.
So why can't we just make that number 9.9 and just borrow less money? Or I don't really feel, I mean, I know you're doing your due diligence. I know you are.
Sure.
I just, I'm not comfortable with this.
Yeah,
The alternative, if you wait and pass a resolution with the exact 9.9 million. When the interest rates move around, if we are unable, because of the interest payments changing, to keep your debt service level, we may have to borrow a smaller amount. Maybe it's 8.5 million or something lower to keep your total debt service payments level year over year.
Okay, I'm fine. I'm good with that.
How much interest are we paying on these loans?
It is not locked in yet, and your action tonight does not lock in the interest rates. That gets the approval process started to be able to do that at a future date. But if you remember and have the schedules from last week, interest rates have not moved a whole lot since I was with you last week. So if it was today, it would be very close to what you saw last week at the work session.
I'm looking at your sheet and we're looking at just under $500,000 in interest a month. Is that correct?
$500,000 in interest a month. I would have to go back and break out all the interest payments and divide them by 12. I don't know that figure off the top of my
Well,
head.
like on the first one on the list, 215 of 25, we're going to pay 10,000 on principal, and interest is going to be 278, 889.72.
What page are you looking at? I'm sorry, I don't
I'm
know. what
on
you're looking at.
A2.
What page?
Are you looking at the resolution that your bond counsel prepared?
Yes,
Okay, that is based on the
I am
7%.
looking at Schedule A.
Okay, so you have to bear with me. I didn't create that
It's at the
document,
bottom
so
of
I
your
need to do it.
resolution.
Your bond counsel put that together. Let me take a look. So A2,
Page 23, Audrey.
okay. So you're looking at the not to exceed schedule, which reflects an interest rate of 7%, which you are not going to be paying 7%. You're going to be paying substantially less than that based on interest rates in the market today. That document is just for the state. That's the not to exceed figure where we have to use the 7%. That is not what you're actually going to pay.
Okay, on your Schedule B, it shows that in 6/30 of 2053, this will be paid off. And we will have paid $86,420,077.
Well, you won't actually be paying on Schedule B1, the fourth column where it says parameters, it's a
Yep.
total of 33 million. That's the same numbers from the previous page based on 7%. So that is not what you will be paying. That's the not to exceed number for the state.
Then what are we paying? How much interest is what I want to know? We're paying on $9.9 million.
Well, if you have the handout that I passed out to you from last week, from September 5,
Yeah,
if you look at page 4 of that packet from last week, and you look at
Okay.
column 3 on last week's packet, you'll see the estimate. Now, again, these are not locked in yet, but the total repayment would be 21.2 million. So 9.9 of that is principal. The difference is the interest.
okay, so we're almost doubling it.
Yes.
Okay,
That's why the school costs over $40 million.
yeah,
I
the
have-
school is
I
gonna
have-
be way
I have
past
a
what
question.
everybody was told it was gonna be.
Okay, hold on a second, Tom. Bill asked to
Okay.
speak first. Go ahead, Bill.
That's okay. I get,
You sure?
if it come, if I can clarify, to tell you the truth, in all that discussion, I got confused on what I was gonna ask. If it
Okay.
gets straight in my head again, I'll ask it.
Okay. Tom, go ahead.
I have one simple question. We passed a $25 million budget for this school. We were told we're running perfectly on budget. Why are we asking to borrow another $9 million?
This is the second phase of that. So in December, the district borrowed the first half, the first 9.9 million. This is the second of the two issues that have, that were necessary to fund it. So rather than borrowing all of it up front to help defray some of the costs and reduce the cost of taxpayers, they're doing it in two chunks. So chunk one, 9.9 million, would be the second of the two anticipated bonds to help pay for Liberty Curve.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Elizabeth.
Tom, I think I was where you are right now. One thing when this was first discussed is they never brought up the word interest. When we thought we were only spending 20 to 23 million, the word interest didn't come in. So that's why the expanded number of the cost to build this building.
That is not accurate at all. You knew all along when we borrowed this money, anytime you borrow and float a bond, there is interest payments that go with it. You knew that from the beginning when we started talking about this way back before this whole school started. This whole discussion is ridiculous because when you borrow money, and Audrey can verify this, when you do a bond issue, you have to anticipate that there's going to be interest. And whatever the interest is whatever you're going to lock it in after we pass the resolution. This $12 million, that is a misleading figure, as she has tried to explain here to you, that we are not borrowing $12 million. We set from the very beginning, and you knew it this as well as I do, that we said we were going to do two bond issues, one at 9.9, a second one halfway through the phase at 9.9. Now everybody's acting like, whoa, we're gonna spend all this money. We knew from the get-go. And this is very misleading because that you knew it and everybody else that was on the facilities committee knew what the deal was when we went into this. And if we don't finish the second, do the bond issue, we're going to be in real deep trouble because then we could be sued for this. So I would think long and hard before you vote against it.
I would like to make a statement there.
So would I.
Because
ahead.
I
Go ahead,
wasn't
Tom.
here when you talked about all of this. All I was told was this is going to cost us $25 million. There is no interest.
Exactly.
If you would have specified this is going to cost us $25 million with another $30 million interest on that, how do you think that would fly? If I told you I'll give you $25, but you got to pay me back 50, but I don't tell you that
Tom,
until I collect
anytime-
it, how are you going to feel about it?
Anytime that
We
we have
approved
ever,
$25 million. We did not approve $25 million with interest. We approved a dollar figure of $25 million.
Okay.
Right?
so-
this,
When you bought your car, did they tell you how much it was going to cost after interest? Yes, they did. You did not tell us how much this was going to cost us after interest because you're taking it out at different times with different interest rates. That is as misleading and sneaky as it can be.
This was discussed.
And it was
multiple,
discussed
multiple
before I
times.
was here.
This
And
is-
to me,
That's
this
not our
is
problem.
sneaky.
That is
We
not
didn't know
my-
you were gonna be here. So.
President
Oh, yeah,
Roger.
you-
Passed
All
it
right,
as a
okay.
board.
Go ahead,
Oh,
Chris.
yeah, you knew I was.
All right. Mr. Johnson, I don't think his discussion is ridiculous. Okay? I'm just gonna say, I don't think it's
the
that.
numbers that you're
Hold
throwing
on,
out there.
I
Hold
have
on,
the
hold
floor. I have the floor. And if you have a difficulty with Elizabeth, that's fine. It doesn't need to go here. What I'm asking, this was voted in the week before we three were sworn in, and it was done on purpose. I'm asking about the new bond, what it's gonna cost interest wise. I'd like to ask Joni, if you could come up here, what is the plan to repay this? Because all of us here are gonna be dead before this is done. I do not want to leave the school board and $89 million in debt. I'd ask Joni McIntyre to explain to us what we're looking at to get out of it. What's gonna be the procedure?
Roger, while she's walking up, can I ask Audrey a question?
Go ahead, Bill.
Thank you. Roger, I'm sorry, I'm a little dense. I still don't understand how, if we're borrowing $10 million, why, what it has to do, how we get the $12 million. It just, I'm sorry, your explanation went over my head. Okay, and I'm sure it's my defect, not yours, but could you try again, please?
I can. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you fine. Thank you.
Okay, great. So the Debt Act is old paperwork from the Department of Community Economic Development, and they have a lot of rules and regulations that you as a school district, because you're, a municipal entity, you must follow their rules. So part of the filing that is submitted by your bond counsel, including that resolution that she put together that you're looking at, is those advertisements that you saw in the newspaper that you were going to consider a resolution tonight. And there's an after ad as well, that if you do pass or don't, either way, there will be a subsequent ad in the newspaper saying what you did. And considering that they require these newspaper ads and proof of publication, you can tell the rules are old, correct? You can't use your website. It has to be a printed newspaper. So that's just another way that you can tell the rules are outdated. So part of the outdated procedure is those figures on the schedules A, 1, 2, and 3. Each one of those dollar amounts in the principal column, we set what we think it's going to be at the 9.9 million. And then each year, so each individual payment has to have some cushion added to it, so that when we lock in the interest rates, we can move the principal payments where we need them. And obviously, my intention is to put as much principal early as we can, because the sooner you pay it off, the less interest it costs. But we have to balance that with the annual payment not being too much.
Okay.
With me on that part?
Well, you had me up until just there. That's what I don't
Okay.
understand why. I don't understand why how the principal payment's changing if we're maybe are
No,
you
I
saying
can-
this is
can
going to
I
be,
try
is
again?
this going
Can
to
I
be,
try again?
is this going to be a floating interest rate that we're paying?
No, it's not. What happens is this approval with the state takes 20 days. So after you approve the resolution, if you approve the resolution, your bond counsel files a stack of paperwork with the state, including this resolution. That paperwork has to be approved while we're getting ready to lock in interest rates. So we haven't locked in interest rates yet, but if you do it in the near future, they'll be very similar to what we've been talking about the last couple of weeks.
Okay.
So we looked at
I guess what I don't understand is we're borrowing X, okay? Whatever the interest rate does, we're still borrowing X, $9.9 million. Why does it, if the interest rates change, we've still borrowed $9.9 million. Why do we have to up the figure? Why is it showing $12 million?
Well,
That's
and
what I'm
I'm
not
not looking
understanding.
at the schedule, so I'm just going to give you a for instance.
Yes.
Let's say the first payment was $5,000 based on today's interest rate. Well, let's say interest rates go way down, and now you can afford to pay $10,000 of principal in the first year. And I'm talking about theoretically when we lock interest rates.
Yeah.
They don't move once we lock them in.
Okay.
So now we want to pay the principal as quickly as possible. So the idea of the 12 million is to give us flexibility to move the principal
Okay.
payments based on the interest rates to pay it off as quick as
Okay,
possible.
so you may have hit me there. You may have actually gotten through this
I
calibrating
told you I was going to
skull.
keep trying
you know.
until it made sense to you.
Dr.
So-
Zagara knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah. The
So
12 million
basically what
premium.
you're saying is you're inflating this amount that we could borrow if we wanted to, so that we can prepay the principal if we want to?
Prepay, but when it comes time to lock interest rates, I can do the best for you if I have a little bit of flexibility in the payment schedule. Because we want to pay it off as quick as you can afford annually. If I can put, hey, you never know, maybe that last payment won't be $2 million. It'll be something smaller if
Okay.
we can move the payments up.
All right. So I guess my last question is simply, there's no way we're going to borrow $12 million, right?
Right. The plan that was put together some 2 years ago has always been to borrow the 9.9 million twice. We did it once, so this would be it. And then anything over that is district funds.
Okay, thank you.
If you would look back on the last bond, the 2023 bond, it is set up the same exact way.
Okay.
It has the same exact figure on the front page, just so they have the
All right.
flexibility.
Okay.
So I guess if you have some misunderstanding or distrust of this bond, if you look back on the 2023 bond, it has the same exact setup, and we
Okay.
borrowed $9.9 million.
All right, as I told you, I
So I would-
apologize.
I would say-
I don't deal with figures like this well.
Understood.
Okay, I
And
told
you know, the 2020 A
You want to talk
bond,
about cardiac outputs? I'm good at that.
Understood.
Okay, you know,
Understood.
just, you know,
but I would pull any of the
Yeah.
2020 A, 2020 AA.
Yeah.
You look at any of those resolutions, the front page has that inflated number due to the flexibility of their ability
Okay.
to secure the bonds.
Thank you both.
So that's what I would say. I know it looks misleading, but it truly is not. We have never gone over the amount we intended to bond.
With that said, what is the payback plan
So
that
every
you
time,
have formulated to pay this off?
okay, every
'Cause
time.
I do not see a way that we'll ever pay it off.
So every time that we want to secure any kind of debt, we ask the first question, what is the budget impact? So that is exactly how we plan out how much, how long, going into, an optional interest rate. So you look at all of those numbers, and that's why we came up with two bonds under $10 million to secure a better rate. We know that somewhere between 20, 25, and 30 years. So looking at all of those options, what can we as the district budget? So we look at about a $250,000 budget impact. And that's how much we believe year after year that we will be able to handle each year. So we may be paying out, you're looking at these millions of dollars, that is all added into the budget every year. We've calculated it out till 2053, what the budget impact will be. Every year, each year we pay out the bonds, and each year the impact is an additional $250,000. So yes, we have absolutely done our homework. I've worked with Audrey, I've worked with Laura. Yes, we are not going to not pay our debt back. We are absolutely capable of paying back any of the debt, any and all of the debt, or we wouldn't take it on. And as I think Laura said, I forget the number, but it's over 100% you can borrow on what your school.
Just because you can doesn't mean you should.
And we wouldn't. We absolutely wouldn't. We are well below our debt capacity, well below it.
If we have 18 million in reserves,
Mhm.
why aren't we using a chunk of that so we're not borrowing so much?
We are.
Because that would.
We are. So if the cost of the school was 25 or 24, 25, we are, because we're borrowing less than 20. So
How much are we using out of the budget or out of the reserves to help with this loan?
Well, if you do it in simple terms, if the school is 24 and we're borrowing less than 19, so you're going to use about 5. And we knew that. We absolutely knew that going into when this plan was originated. It was discussed at the facility.
Well, this
meeting.
was all discussed and done before we were here. That's why I'm asking.
Oh, understood. But the prior board had absolutely discussed it through the facilities meeting, the finance meeting. We had Audrey in multiple times to go over all of the options. But
So the school that was going to be 22 million, you're saying now is upwards of 25 million or more.
I think it was around 24, I believe, was around what had last come in, probably the year
Why
and a half
don't we
ago.
use more of that 18 million to get this drop down?
But that's 24 minus interest.
That's minus interest, correct?
Right. which
And we
everyone,
just got done raising our taxes because we can't keep ourselves in budget. And here we're gonna double the cost of our school. So what's our
Yes.
taxes gonna do next year?
For 149 kids.
What's our taxes gonna do the year after that?
we have taken all that into consideration again with the budget.
They're gonna go
With
up.
the budget, and I don't know that
You're predicted on your last budget
for
was
24, 25.
predicted.
For this year, it did.
Clear up to, I think, 4 years from now to like $90 million.
There is no increases in any of those
Oh,
out years.
your little chart that you gave us there for our budget showed that.
There were no tax increases
Okay.
built into those.
Back to my question, why can't we use more?
There, again, the facility and the finance committee and the board approved it to be this, to take this direction.
Okay.
I got it. Gotcha.
Elizabeth?
Thank you, thank you.
Mhm.
I think this might be the confusion why you got upset, Jeff. When we first started talking about this, one thing I felt very strongly about during the facilities committee, which the new members don't know this, so please bear with me, is that the school board majority had a choice. Either have a planning team like most schools do, that includes the school board, or let the superintendent and administration handle all the planning. And the majority of the board decided on Plan B and keeping the board basically out of it, except for we would get presentations and a few comments, which was appreciated. And I would give comments throughout the year that it went on. And it was always dismissed on how to reduce costs. And for the last, I think every month, for the last year, I requested that the majority of the board look at the budget, and so we can lower this cost, whether it's lighting or desks or whatever, flooring, whatever it may be. But again, the minority of the board, myself, is dismissed. So here we are. We've been told they've been working on a list of items to reduce the cost, and we still haven't seen the list. So I'm me personally, as a school board member, I understand possibility of a lawsuit. I understand that implication. I really do. But I can't support this because all this time I kept asking and asking and asking. And the majority of the board chose not to go that way. So my minority voice has no power. So again, I would be fine if we borrowed maybe, I would say the highest 7.9 million. And once you have that budget, then all of a sudden we're going to have to cut other things out that aren't necessary for a K-4 school. So I'm not, right now, I can't support 9.9 because of those reasons. So I hope that clarifies. And always when it was presented to us, it was always going to be, quote, a little bit more money right from the beginning, a little bit more money than rebuilding the original school. And I think that was 16 million at that time. But don't quote me on that, please. That was a year and a half ago. So that's where I am right now. And I also know that everybody who's contacted me, and I'm sorry, Polly, but this is the honest to God truth. I haven't had one person in my district that is happy about this. So here I am as a board member. What am I supposed to do? Seriously, I'm just in a conundrum because.
Yeah, honestly, you're supposed to honor the vote that the majority of the board did when we finalized all of this.
You're
That is
absolutely
what
right.
you're supposed to honor.
You're
And you are
absolutely
part of
And
that.
that
You are
was-
part of that board, and that is what you're supposed to
I
honor.
do. I
And
do
that was
honor
the
it.
original plan. The original plan was voted upon, it was approved, and as Tracy said, you should be, as a part of the board and as a board member, in good standing and good integrity, should honor that vote and follow the plan.
So
Because if you don't, and apparently you aren't worried about any lawsuits that we could have that would be brought against us. And we have a building that is going to be half done. And so, but you're okay with that. You're okay with that because you want to play games here. And this is just.
That's enough.
All right, hold on.
That's enough.
That's,
Maybe just I'm sorry this is a board discussion. I just want to provide a little bit of information as I understand it. When the project was started and the Act 35 process was gone through, the board signed a contract with Crabtree and Mobar as the prime contractor to accomplish the scope of work that was identified at that time. So the board has already made a contractual obligation to complete Liberty Curtain at the price that was agreed on at that time. I don't want to quote a number because I don't remember it off the top of my head. But the school district has a contractual obligation to pay the contractors for doing the work. They don't care how we come up with money,
Correct.
but we as a school district are on the hook for that, for the completion of that school. We've signed a
That is
contract.
correct.
Jeff, I appreciate what you're saying, but I wasn't here for the original vote. I'm allowed to have an opinion. I do not have to follow the good old boys club, and I refuse to.
Good old boys. Club.
Okay, all right, so this is what's going on, okay? This is the way I see everything, all right? Whenever we actually started out with this project, okay? At that time, the school board decided to go ahead with this project. We went into a contract with Crabtree and Rohrbach. Now, we also set it up that we were going to float two bonds, okay, at these intervals. So that way we would be able to pay them for that. If we do not go along with what we had agreed upon previously, what's going to happen is we're going to end up still having to pay that money, but we'll also end up probably having a lawsuit against us, which is going to be more money that's going to be paid by the taxpayers because the school district is going to end up passing that on to our constituents. Okay, so the way I'm seeing this, okay, the way for us to best help the constituents is to go with what we had previously planned. That way we don't end up paying even more money in a lawsuit. Okay, that's how I'm perceiving this.
We can avoid that if
How?
we take more out of our reserve and use that instead of taking out so much of a bond. Look at the interest we will save. That's all I'm saying.
Joni.
I understand what you're saying.
Okay.
We made the contract. We
Right.
made an agreement to pay $25 million for this school. Correct. 23, whatever it
Okay.
is.
All right. Yeah.
25, just said. So we made that agreement. Yes, we have to pay them that. But why were we not responsible enough to not spend money we don't have? I mean,
Any building
Elizabeth is
project-
over there saying how, that she's been asking for ways to save money, and she's been denied that. When we spend money we don't have, that's not a way to save money. I mean, that, to me, that's really not good business. When you
Okay.
spend money or say you're going to spend money you don't have, thinking you're going to get it in a loan, that's not good business. I mean, do you live your life like that?
All the time.
Anybody who builds or buys a house borrows money.
It's called a
Everybody-
mortgage.
People borrow money all the time. No school districts are able to build or remodel without any type of loan services. That's except for maybe the super rich
Tracy,
ones. We are not
Tracy,
there.
you're absolutely right. But you don't pay more back in interest than you're borrowing.
I'm pretty sure historic.
Actually, yeah,
Most
you do.
I never
That's just
did.
how loans
You
work.
do.
Well,
Almost all loans.
regardless, all I'm asking, can we
It's not
change
taxpayer
it?
dollars either.
Can we change it and take more out of reserve to get it down so we're paying less interest? Yes or no?
So if I can, we haven't planned for that. And so both in our financial planning for how we wrote our budget for this year and subsequent years. That being said, we do have the type of bond that after 5 years, we can pay off early, which will help drive down the remaining principal, which will have the same effect that you're saying. So
But we're never gonna go out of debt. We got other projects that gotta happen.
so we can pay off the principal early, which will help reduce the interest costs.
And where's that money coming from? We're broke.
That's not true.
Well,
So similarly, we can look at our reserves. That's kind of a loose term, but we can look at our undesignated fund balance in future years, looking at the overall financial health of the district. And what often happens with districts is they allocate more money to pay principal down, to do exactly what you're saying, Chris, to reduce the overall amount of interest that's paid.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Johnny, if I may, just a quick question. I remember sometime back, again, I'm Vince, but you mentioned that you like to keep that fund in a certain range because we get in trouble if we get too low. Am I remembering correctly? Our general, or whatever, our reserve fund, whatever it's called?
You're talking about the fund balance, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Are you talking about the fund balance?
I believe so, yeah.
okay.
Yeah, I remember your discussion was, we've got this much money but we don't want to take it down too low because then we
Right,
got a problem.
that's the unassigned fund balance.
Okay.
Because we do have that fund balance of 18 million. Many portions of that are committed. One of that committed buckets is the Liberty Curtain. If you remember last year, we had a surplus and we used that surplus to move into a committed fund for the Liberty Curtain expenses using general fund reserve money. That's exactly what we did per the direction of the board. We knew we would need extra money for Liberty Curtain and we committed those funds. So then so out of that, all of the general fund money, we do have, like I said, it's somewhere around $10 million committed. Some of it's PSERS, some of it is required healthcare reserve. If we would go below what we would owe for healthcare, we have that reserve bucket. We are required to have that. It's right around $3 million. It actually went up because of the cost of healthcare. So that went up to about 3 million. That's also a committed piece of the general fund. So to answer your question, there is that unassigned fund balance. You do not want that to drop below 8%. Or it should not go above 8%, but healthy is be somewhere between 7 and 8%.
Okay, where are we now?
We are just below, we're about 7.5%. So we are at a very healthy
So we
point.
really don't have to be in a place where you're going to be happy with the way the finances are. We don't have a lot that we can take out. Am I understanding that right?
If we don't pass the bond, we would use all of our reserves and we would fall under, and I don't want to use the word crisis, but if we had to use $10 million additional to pay off the bond, because we do not want to get any kind of, suit against us from the contractors, we would fall in a very dangerous fund balance if we had to use all of our reserves.
but what if you only used a part of it?
And so to answer that question, like Dr. Redmond said, that's not how we budgeted for this year and the oncoming years. We budgeted based upon the direction of the facilities and the finance meeting the prior boards. That's how we budgeted it. And we knew what the budget impact would be. So again, I want to kind of go back to that budget impact. We did forecast out what that effect would have on the budget. And we knew that 250,000 extra would be a comfortable amount that the school district could borrow or pay back additionally. So I am very comfortable with these numbers. I know they look long and I know the interest rate, but with any bond, with any debt, with any mortgage, you pay interest. And it typically is at least double what your principal amount is. The school can actually, they're municipal bonds. So we actually get a pretty good rate.
So again,
I still think we're going to be so far in debt. We'll never see the end of it.
Well, I think Dr. Emmons said after 5 years, we are allowed to start paying principal back. And I would say this then, I would say as direction from the board, we apportion part of our budget every year to say, we're going to commit whatever it is, 500,000 additional dollars to pay down the debt. I think that's a reasonable request to add into the budget every year.
And then times 15, 20 years, that would add up
It
really
really
quickly.
does. And I think that's a very reasonable directive.
And we also have the opportunity to refinance after so many years
Absolutely.
too. if
After
the rates
5 years,
drop.
you can absolutely,
drop,
because right
yeah.
now the interest rates are higher than, our 2020A and 2020 AA bonds were right after COVID. So those bonds were
That was helpful, Joan.
wonderfully low. You're right. So we absolutely, and we watch those. The bank watches them for us.
We've done
So
it before. several years
absolutely
ago,
we
we've done
have.
it
And it
before.
has always worked in our favor.
Yeah.
Always worked in our favor.
Thank you,
But
Joan.
I guess what I'm wondering, I'm getting the vibe that that it's not a good idea to take the money we have and rather than borrow the money
Rather than borrow.
The 9.9.
for what we need now, instead of what Mr. Scaff is asking, can we
Right.
take this money that we have to do it rather than borrowing money? I'm
And I-
getting the idea that you don't think that's a good idea
Just-
because of our
Just
general
because we have,
situation.
and just because that is what we have budgeted, that's what we.
All right, if we hadn't
forecasted.
budgeted, what would the answer be?
If we would have said this 2 years ago, we wanted to borrow less money, then we would have set it up differently. And I can't answer that question of what it would have been. I really
Okay.
can't answer that question.
All right,
but-
thank you.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, Thank
Yeah.
you, Joni.
Okay,
Roger, can I make?
go ahead,
can I-
Bill.
It seems to me we're caught in the classical between a rock and a hard place situation. Okay, now, I'm gonna make no pretenses that I think you guys made a bad decision the last board. I think you should have refurbished the old building. Okay? If you want, I can show you pictures of where I went to elementary school, junior high school, and high school. They're all still being used. And the cornerstone for one of them was laid in 1923. They've been refurbished multiple times. It would have saved us money, but we've got a contract now, we're screwed, we gotta follow through on it. But what I'd say is, I don't trust, I have a very low level of trust for this kind of construction and things. I would say not one penny over what we said it was gonna cost. They better give us a school for what we told them it was, they told us it was gonna cost.
What are you gonna do with the change?
And period.
Not gonna happen.
Okay. All right. Anything else? All right. We've got a
Audrey,
motion.
Thank you.
Thank you, Audrey.
Thanks, Audrey. We've got a motion and a second. Okay. Get a roll call vote, please.
Ms. Donahue?
Yes.
Mr. Elling?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Knopf? Ms. Lynch?
I don't know yet. I really don't. I mean, I want to vote no. Because of all the ways that we could have probably saved money. And I was dismissed. Another board member was dismissed. So no one has said, come to me in my district that wants this to be this expensive. I'm supposed to be
Right.
representing them and the safety of the kids. And I know the safety of the kids wouldn't cost this much. So I'm seriously, I'm just absolutely, I've never been this stagnant in my
Okay.
life.
Yes or no?
You owe it to your
Yes or-
constituents.
yes or
to
no.
Vote the way they
Vote
want
your
you to
heart.
vote.
No,
Mr. Scott?
If you took out 5 million or 6 and used the rest out of our reserves, I'd say yes. At this point, no.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Dr. Baldino?
Reluctantly, yes.
Mr. Cannon?
No.
5 yeses. 3 noes. Motion
Okay, motion passes. All right, next. We are looking at, next.
I'm getting there.
Okay.
We're in the policies. I'd like to make a motion to table I, 1, 2, and 3.
Second.
We tabled them at the last meeting.
No,
You
we
can't,
did
no,
not.
we discussed
vote.
about tabling it, but you can't table it during a work session,
Okay,
only
then
during a
I
vote.
second it.
Okay,
It gets tabled until the Supreme Court makes a decision.
okay.
Tabled 1, 2. and
Okay,
3.
so we're tabling policy 103, 103.1, and 104. Is that the motion?
Yes.
Okay,
I second it.
we got a motion and a second. Discussions? All right, roll call vote, please.
Mr. Elling,
Yes.
Mr. Johnson,
Yes.
Mr. Knopf, Ms. Lynch,
Yes.
Mr. Scott,
Yes.
Ms. Smith,
Yes.
Dr. Baldino,
Yes.
Mr. Cannon,
Yes.
Ms. Donahue,
Was that a yes, Polly? I didn't quite hear.
Yes, it was.
Okay, thank you.
sorry.
Okay, motion passes. Let's move on.
I'd like to make a motion to pass I-4, our policy 218, student discipline.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all discussion? Okay,
The
Exposures.
Or
Chris
sorry,
seconded it.
Chris seconded.
No discussion?
It's just this, I have the same problem with this that I have with a lot of them. This is kind of vague and, you know, should we tighten it up? I think that there are not a lot of specifics and, you know. I
The
think
specifics
it's
come
vague.
within the ARs and the student handbooks.
So the policies are written with some amount of ambiguity in there, so that we can address specific situations that come in that fall within the policy. The PSBA legal team writes these and presents them to the boards across the state with that idea that school districts have to operationalize these things. And if we make them so tight that it only addresses a smaller segment of the total things that might come up around student discipline, then it reduces our ability to ensure that, in this case, in the student discipline one, that we can support student behavior that we expect of our students.
Well, you brought up something that is, you know, I think that this reliance on PSBA is a bad judgment. I have not been impressed with I've seen from them in my, whatever it is, 7 or 8 or 9 months here now, you know, so,
I don't know if.
I'm
it'll
going to
help-
vote no.
I don't know if it'll help, Bill, but I mean, the policy states that the board shall adopt a code of student conduct. Within that, we adopt the policy saying we'll adopt a student code of conduct. That's our handbooks every year. The handbooks every year
Yeah, but
outline.
That's what I'm saying. I think we should know what the student, I don't think that should be an administrative regulation. I think that should be something we say. This
It is,
what
the
we want.
student handbooks are what we approve. We approve those. And all the student disciplines, the level of disciplines and everything are within those handbooks. We approve those at the beginning of every year.
Isn't that the
Maybe-
thing that was impossible to read that we did a month or 2 ago?
It was a little iffy, but that's also regulated by PDE, which is very confusing.
Well,
Well,
So-
may I?
Go ahead,
I
Elizabeth.
understand about the student handbook. The first couple of years I was here, I didn't finish it, but it's torturous at times because it is so, but it's very detailed. I will say this helped me, Bill, is I read enough of it. And then I know she doesn't have enough time to really present, months and months in advance, but if you look at like this year's and if you see anything that you feel that we should make stronger or change, that'll give us a lot more time.
Okay, so, we are looking at the student discipline. We're not looking at the handbook.
The handbook,
So
right,
let's-
so
can
I'm
we
just saying, yeah.
move on. Is there any other discussion and that deals specifically with the policy 218? None? Okay. We have a motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Johnson,
Yes.
Mr. Knopf, Ms. Lynch,
Yes.
Mr. Scott,
Yes.
Ms. Smith,
Yes.
Dr. Baldino,
No.
Mr. Cannon,
Yes.
Ms. Donahue,
Yes.
Mr. Elling.
Yes.
Seven yeses, one no.
Like a motion, make a motion to pass I-5, policy 218.1.
Second.
I
Almost,
can't
Chris.
get it out.
Yeah, well, you're squeaking it.
Save your voice, Chris.
Yeah, okay. I have a motion and a second. Discussion?
Yeah. Uh, The way this is written, basically we need soft paper tablets and crayons and nothing else because, it's anything that can be used to cause bodily harm. I could show you how to kill somebody with a pencil. Okay?
I worked in a prison.
The,
Yeah, I know. It happens.
We have to cancel the entire, what's it called, CTE program, because everything in there can do bodily harm or kill somebody. If we're gonna have, as far as I'm concerned, for me to vote yes, it's got to be something appropriate. This is ridiculous. This is the way it's written. And not the least of which, I'm totally against this business about replicas of things. You can't go to the lowest common denominator. You know what? I agree. Well, first of all, it's against the law. It's against federal law as well as other laws that they should to have guns. So, they're all too young to have handguns. There's against federal laws to bring a gun onto the school property anyway. So, it's kind of redundant. But if a kid wants to bring a picture of a gun in or a model of a gun in or something, or a model of an how about a fighter plane? It's
I actually think that's where the discretion and eventually something like that would be brought in front of the board. If we're looking at a disciplinary action, if it continues. So if it's something that's like really bad, I'm sure we're all gonna deal with it. But if someone's using their fingers, I don't see.
there have been cases
I
where,
understand that.
so
But this is Keystone Central.
I understand that, but
So, all right, go ahead, Chris.
In that policy, under weapon, it says the term shall include, but is not limited to the knife, The last part of it says replica of a weapon, any other tool, instrument, or implement capable of inflicting serious bodily injury. I think that covers about everything.
that's what I said,
Yeah.
it's.
It covers anything, so we're all right.
Okay.
We're all right. It means, if you have those things, you can't have those things. That's what it says.
Right.
And we're using those things every day.
I understand about the replica because somebody brings a plastic model of a World War II grenade in here and sets it down on the table. And little Billy over in the corner goes home to mommy and says he was so scared because he thought it was a real grenade. What are you going to do? You're going to say, well, it was just a model. And she's going to say, well, Billy came home and he has to go to therapy now because he's scared. So now
Okay.
you're going to suspend a kid because he brought you a plastic model in that his grandpap gave him, said, I used these back in the war. And now you're going to suspend this kid or expel him because he brought this in. I mean, to me, that's kind of ridiculous.
And, okay, so.
Maybe we should
Hold on,
send this.
hold hold on.
And you can't tell me that
All
that's
right.
not going to happen in this
Now,
world today.
Hold on. Now, Frank, if someone brought in a toy, okay, to show that this is something that my grandfather and wasn't using it in a threatening way, how would the school look at that?
So I think context matters. And so in that case, my assumption would be that the teacher is ensuring that all the students are involved in the conversation and know what that is and why it was brought in and that it was not real and it was a replica of.
And
So it's-
mom says Billy has to go to therapy now because he was scared. He's
I think-
oversensitive.
I
He's scared.
I think that's a separate conversation. If we're doing our due diligence to
And
ensure
we
that
just-
we're explaining the context and what that item was and that it wasn't a weapon. If that particular child is having an issue that they're taking home with parents, that's a separate conversation.
So now we're all saying that it's innocent that way, right? Is that what we're agreeing, that it's an innocent situation? That child should not be disciplined for anything like that?
It's all in context.
But again, mom pushes the issue. And we just got done being concerned about being sued. Now we've got another issue of being sued because we didn't treat her child.
So do you want us
the
to
way-
put in there that, you
No,
know,
I'm
anybody who
saying-
brings in a grenade?
I'm saying you're so, it's so.
We're
just-
getting,
It's ridiculous.
what I'm seeing
Replica.
is we're actually getting down into the weeds of this. And we're not looking at the fact that we hired a superintendent, okay, to use his judgment and look at the context in which everything is being done.
Okay,
Okay, that we hired him to do that.
right.
Okay. He will take, that's his job. Now, if it seems like it's something that's way out of order,
Mhm.
you know, that's a discussion we could have with him. But at this point, I don't really see, you know, this policy is saying, look, these things are considered, you can't have them, you know. So,
I just don't understand the replica or a tool. A
okay.
tool
And
can be a
if you
screwdriver.
said it yourself, and you're saying it obliquely, but if it's gonna be okay, it's okay. Don't put it in there. Don't say, well, okay, you can't bring a replica, but maybe you can if we decide it's okay.
And it's actually saying a replica or any tool or instrument capable of inflicting serious bodily injury. A replica of a grenade is not going to inflict serious bodily injury.
But a grenade can.
But it's.
An
That's-
actual
Not
one,
an
yes,
actual-
but we're
yes,
talking,
but
we're
a
talking
replica cannot.
replicas.
So,
You guys are saying replicas.
yeah,
And replicas
And I'm also
are
saying when
not-
little Billy's back
And
there in the
actually,
corner, he's scared
depending upon
because
what
he
the
doesn't know
replica is
the
made
difference
out of,
between a
it could
replica
cause
and a
bodily
real
harm.
It's a serious
like you
bodily
said, Bill,
injury.
though,
Yeah.
anything can cause
Yeah.
bodily harm.
Lawsuit.
I'm
So-
sorry, Roger. I'm
If
sorry,
you can't
Roger.
show me that there's
Okay,
not a sense of
Elizabeth?
people.
I'm so sorry. I'm not sure how this happened. I remember our solicitor said not to check this box, but maybe I remembered incorrectly. For some reason it's checked, page 2 under guidelines.
Okay, that
Page
should
2
not-
under guidelines.
You're correct. That should not be checked.
Okay, thank you, because if we could just approve or vote on this, I'm sorry. Vote on this and make sure that check mark is out, because otherwise I'm gonna get arrested tomorrow. I don't want to be arrested tomorrow.
I'm not sure how that, I apologize.
That happens, it happens.
Okay, so,
Supposed to be unchecked.
Correct.
It's,
Unchecked.
yeah,
so if that's the case,
I'm
then,
glad this got pulled, thank you. It happens, I don't know.
well, we have a vote on this,
This is
okay?
the one about
We got a motion
discharging a
and a
firearm?
second. We're in the discussion phase, okay?
Yeah.
Make a motion to amend.
I live across the street.
All right.
I would
You can do that.
I'd like to make a motion to amend policy 218.1 under guidelines, page 2, and uncheck the thing in accordance with federal law, possession or discharge, et cetera.
So we
Yeah, we're unchecking that.
Yes.
does that mean we're
Yes.
deleting
Okay.
that?
Yes,
Yes.
Unchecked, yeah.
Yeah.
That means
Well,
deleting that.
uncheck what's, you know,
okay.
Yeah, it means-
I have
would-
an amended,
It will be removed.
I have an amended motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay,
discussion.
all right.
I move that we amend the motion to say that clause should
Okay.
be deleted.
Hold on a second. We have
That's what
to,
we do normally.
we have to
things
vote
checked.
on the amendment first. Okay, so. Okay. Roll call. For amending the policy.
Mr. Knopf. Ms. Lynch,
Yes.
Mr. Scott,
Yes.
Ms. Smith,
Yes.
Dr. Baldino,
Yes.
Mr. Cannon,
Yes.
Ms. Donahue,
Yes.
Mr. Elling,
Yes.
Mr. Johnson.
Yes.
That section is now
Thank you.
deleted. Thank you, Senator.
Thanks, Doug, Senator.
Okay, so getting
Thanks.
back to, thank you, everybody.
Yeah.
All right, so getting back to the actual policy now. Okay?
Mhm.
Now that it's been amended. Okay? Is there any further discussion on this?
Mm-mm.
No? Okay. Like to have a roll call vote on this, please?
Ms. Lynch,
Yes.
Mr. Scott,
Yes.
Ms. Smith,
Yes.
Dr. Baldino,
No.
Mr. Cannon.
No.
I'm sorry.
No.
Ms. Donahue,
Yes.
Mr. Elling,
Yes.
Mr. Johnson,
Yes.
Mr. Knopf, six yeses, 2 noes.
I can make a motion to pass I-6, policy 222, tobacco and vaping.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion?
I have one question.
Go ahead.
Isn't 22 and 222 and 323 the same?
I'm sorry, where are you, Tom?
Well, we have tobacco and vaping, and we have tobacco and vaping products.
Yeah, one's for the students and one's for the faculty. I think they should be combined.
I think it should just be tobacco vaping free. Why should the faculty be able to use tobacco or vapes and the students can't?
Faculty can't, they just
Can't.
can, they're just allowed to possess it as legal age, but they're not allowed to use it.
So. in our-
Well,
in
what's
our
the purpose
policies-
of bringing it into a school? if they can't
Actually-
use
They're
it?
not allowed to have in the school. So the difference, we have a 200 section, which is about students, and a 300 section, which is about staff.
Mhm.
So it's best to have a policy that's specific to this in both of those sections.
Isn't one policy blanket for everything?
No.
No.
When you put the sign on the door, that means anybody that walks through the door, to include me or any other board member. Nobody should have a can of snuff in their pocket that comes in here. Simple. Right? I mean, a federal building, state building has a sign right on the door that says no tobacco products. It doesn't say if you're a convict, you can come in, or if you're law enforcement, you can come in. It just says no product. I think it should just be combined as no product.
Well, I'm sorry, where are you, Tom, on this? Are you on page one, page two?
We're on policy, it's policy number 6 and it's
Sure.
policy number 9.
So, but what
If
page?
you look
Oh.
on your agenda for the meeting tonight,
Mhm,
go down to I-6 and I-9.
mhm,
To me,
right.
they are both the same. I believe that that should just be a blanket. I mean, I think it overcomplicates it. Having two of them.
We have to have two
We-
separate for
yeah.
students and staff.
You have to have one for students and you need to have one for
Isn't the
staff.
property-
And that is by state law.
Isn't the property, isn't it a tobacco-free property?
Yes,
Okay,
which
so-
means that students can't have it and staff can't have it.
Right,
So,
so why do we
but
have to have
we-
it separate?
But because we have a student, a section in the handbook or in the policies, and we have an adult or staff member
Employee.
policy, okay,
It's,
section, it has to be stated in both. There's no 2.5.536 or whatever that covers both 2 and 3.
Right.
So
I
by
understand.
us having that, we have to pass the same policy for both.
I see what you're
Okay.
saying, Tom. But it helps delineate, even though the goal for the school is the same on both,
Mhm.
it does help delineate keeping student items over here and keeping non-student things over here. And
I
it's
just feel
easy.
it complicates it, but
In a way, it does complicate it, but on the flip side of the coin, it does say this manual's for this group over here and this manual's for this group over here. And if they cross over repeatedly, then someone might have to do, look both places, like, okay, it's here, it's there. So I understand what you're saying. One manual for one group, one manual for the other group.
The one thing that, students can't use or possess. That's the big thing, okay? Now, with the 323, it says adults can't use. Okay? Adults are allowed to possess, but they're not allowed to bring it in. So let's say, the officers go out and see, something in their car. It's not like they're gonna, and they know it's a teacher's vehicle, they're not gonna go after that. But if they see something like that, let's say in a student's car, then that would be something that, okay, we need to address that. So that's how that whole thing works. Okay? Okay?
I just,
Any-
I think that it just complicates it. You can say, whatever you want about it, but I think it just complicates it. Because you said you work at jail. Does jail have a sign that says convicts can't have it and employees
Yeah.
can't have it?
Yeah.
Does it separate them?
There's
I
there's a
know
sign, there's a sign out front.
Yep.
And it has per policy boom and per policy boom.
Oh,
This is not allowed.
okay. Because my building just has a no tobacco.
Well,
That's
it's
all we
a
have,
little bit more.
no tobacco.
So,
Go ahead. I mean,
All right.
I agree. They shouldn't have it. I just thought it was
okay,
extra that shouldn't be there.
okay. Any other discussion?
Could we just change it to say cannot possess within the building or cannot be on the premises of the building?
That's what I thought.
Well,
I understand
if-
now that it's two different policies, and that's what I was asking, Polly.
I mean, I'm not opposed to that. I'm just
I'm
like,
not
that's,
either.
that's
I'm
a
just-
suggestion I would say, because honestly, if it doesn't say that they can't possess it, then it doesn't protect us if they bring it into the building. I know it says that there's a sign on the door that it's a tobacco free. Maybe that does protect us. I guess I don't know, but I think it wouldn't hurt anything to have it within the policy stating that it cannot be inside the building.
Because I don't understand, the simple thing I don't understand is if you are a faculty, why are you bringing tobacco into school if you can't use it?
You
know,
shouldn't be bringing it in
You
at all.
shouldn't be, no, and
So-
that's why I think
All right.
that it's complicated.
Well, if this is the case and there's this much dissension about what's going on here, then maybe this ought to go back to the policy committee.
And create
So
one
we can
policy.
continue on.
I mean, we can continue
Can-
on, but I just think it's overcomplicated, that's all.
Yeah.
Well, it's up to you, Tom. Do you want us to, or the policy committee, do you want us to?
We can pass these policies and then if there's any question later,
I
they can be
just-
looked at again. Just because we're passing them doesn't mean that they
Well,
can't be
I
looked at
don't
again.
like that. I don't believe in, well, we'll do this and then maybe we'll fix it later. If it's broken, fix it now,
It's,
If you want us
you
to.
know?
I'm only one person, you guys are gonna vote for
Understand.
it, so. I'm
Can I
only
just
one
point,
person.
I'm sorry, Tom.
That's all.
Roger, may I say something?
Go ahead.
Yeah. I like, for the student part, you're gonna eliminate a lot of this verbiage. It's simply, it's illegal for them to have that stuff. How many students, Dr. Redmond, how many students do we have in class on the premises in any school that are 21 years of age? None. So you can't have, it's illegal for anyone under 21 to have tobacco or vaping products in the state of Pennsylvania. Pretty simple to take care of that, you know? You don't need all this extra verbiage.
Okay, I just received notification here, okay? Per Pennsylvania statute, Title 18, PA CSA Crimes and Offenses, subsection 6306.1. Use of tobacco products in schools is prohibited. Okay? On school property owned or leased or under the control of a school district. Not allowed. For pupils, okay? Other persons on the school property owned by, leased by, or under the control of the school district. Okay, these are the things that they're not allowed.
So a parent
Okay,
can't sit
so-
in the bleachers with a chew of snuff in his mouth.
No,
Okay. And the student can't sit in the bleachers.
no.
Right. So that's what I was.
So
getting
it's
at.
already taken care of that stuff.
So, all right,
I mean, it's, it's just, to me, it's just one policy that's too many.
okay, so let's move on. All right,
So are we?
okay, can we go ahead and call for the vote? Okay, go ahead and
Ms.
vote.
Smith,
Yes.
Dr. Baldino,
No,
Mr. Cannon,
No.
Ms. Donahue,
Just for clarification, is this the student or the staff?
Student.
222.
Okay, yes.
Mr. Elling,
Yes,
Mr. Johnson,
Yes.
Mr. Knopf, Ms. Lynch,
Yes.
Mr. Scott,
Yes.
6 yes, 2 no's. Motion passed.
I'd like to make a motion to pass I-7, policy 247 on hazing.
is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Discussion? Okay. Vote?
no,
Mr. Cannon,
No.
Ms. Donahue,
Yes.
Mr. Elling,
Yes.
Mr. Johnson,
Yes.
Mr. Knopf, Ms. Lynch,
Yes.
Mr. Scott,
Yes.
Ms. Smith.
Yes.
I'm sorry, guys.
6 to 2.
Z-Pac's not working.
I'd like to
Sorry.
make a motion to pass I-8, policy 249, bullying and cyberbullying.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, discussion? Okay. Vote?
Mr. Cannon,
Yes.
Ms. Donahue,
Yes.
Mr. Elling,
Yes.
Mr. Johnson,
Yes.
Mr. Knopf, Ms. Lynch,
Yes.
Mr. Scott,
Yes.
Ms. Smith,
Yes.
Dr. Baldino,
No,
7 yes, 1 no.
I'd like to make a motion to pass I-9, policy 323, tobacco and vaping products.
Second?
Second.
Okay, discussion? I think we kind of got that all out before, so let's,
Sorry. It's just on page, this happens, I don't know why. It's just probably a glitch in somebody's computer, but the boxes aren't checked on page 2.
Correct, because we don't have expressly permitted areas. So that one should not be checked. So
So-
we don't designate a smoking area. We can go
I was
to.
gonna ask.
Right, so what I'm saying is, did you folks want that erased? Do you want a line through it? So it doesn't look
It
like we
won't show
didn't.
up in the
If
final.
it's
one.
not
Okay.
marked,
It's gonna be
yeah.
removed.
Okay.
So the things we don't
All right.
check get removed.
Thank you. Just want to,
Okay.
thank you.
all right. Vote?
Ms. Donahue,
No, I'd like to see it go back to the policy committee to have possession within the building added.
Mr. Elling,
I say yes.
Mr. Johnson,
Yes.
Mr. Knopf, Ms. Lynch,
Okay, no, he wants, okay.
Mr. Scott,
We take it back. No.
Ms. Smith,
Yes.
Dr. Baldino,
No.
Mr. Cannon.
No.
5 noes, 3 yes.
What was it that Polly wanted added in?
I just wanted to have verbiage stating that it can't be possessed within the building. And that was more of Tom's suggestion, and I agree with him on that.
Okay, thank you.
Easy peasy.
Okay, so this is actually shot down to go back to policy committee. Okay, next.
I'd like to pass I-11, Policy 800, Records Management.
Do I have a second
Second,
discussion? Okay, vote.
One thing on that.
Hmm.
In the record management, it needs to state, we are not destroying videos. We're keeping them.
That shows up in the administrative regulation and not in the policy part, but we did change that.
Okay, as long as it was changed.
Yep, it was changed.
Okay, vote.
Mr. Ellie,
Yes.
Mr. Johnson,
Yes.
Mr. Knopf, Ms. Lynch,
yes.
Mr. Scott,
Yes.
Ms. Smith,
Yes.
Dr. Baldino.
Yes.
Mr. Cannon,
Yes.
Ms. Donahue,
Yes.
yeses.
Okay,
I'd like to make a motion to pass I-13, Policy 806 on child abuse.
do I have a second?
Second.
I-13,
Skipped over.
yeah, we're supposed to
I'm
do
sorry, I
11.
apologize.
That's okay.
I'll amend that. I make a motion to pass I-12, Policy
didn't
801,
do-
Public Records.
11 yet. I pulled 11.
Wait,
They
that's
were-
what we
they
just
were
did,
actually-
Records
Whenever
Management.
we voted whenever we voted for everything other than the items pulled,
I
that was
know.
already
She
covered.
did identify 11.
I did, we just did that. That was Records Management, wasn't it?
Yes.
Oh, no, I
So,
thought you were
this is-
doing 7, I thought
And
you
we
were doing
just
number
did,
10.
and we
No,
just
that one
did
wasn't
policy
pulled.
Oh,
records.
well, I
Okay,
have a comment and we voted on it, but there's a typo in here and there's a section that crossed out and it's a conflict and
okay, so can I make a suggestion, Elizabeth? Bring that up with the policy committee, and then they
They
can
can
look
come
at
back.
that, and then they can, if there's a
Resubmit it.
change that is needed, the policy committee will bring that
That's the
back to
simplest way
us.
okay, yeah, we'll
Okay.
put it on the agenda for next month.
to get.
I'm sorry, folks.
Okay, no, that's fine. It's just, we got to go through the process.
Right, I don't know how I.
Okay, so
I'm so confused.
we are on,
I-12, Policy 801, Public Records.
okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, discussion?
With it stated that the videos stay.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay. Vote.
Mr. Johnson,
Yes.
Ms. Lynch,
Yes,
Mr. Scott,
Yes.
Ms. Smith,
Yes.
Dr. Baldino,
Who did
Yes.
Public records.
Mr.
That's what we're doing, public records.
Mr. Cannon,
Yes.
Ms. Donahue,
Yes.
Mr. Ellie,
Yes. Tracy?
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to pass I-13, Policy 806, Child Abuse.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion? Okay, vote.
Ms. Lynch,
yes,
Mr. Scott,
Yes.
Ms. Smith,
Yes.
Dr. Baldino,
Yes.
Mr. Cannon,
Yes.
Ms. Donahue,
Yes.
Mr. Ellie,
Yes.
Mr. Johnson,
Yes.
Mr. Knopf. Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to pass I-14, Policy 903, Public Comment in Board Meetings.
Second.
Okay, discussion? Okay, vote.
Ms. Lynch,
yes,
Mr. Scott,
Yes.
Ms. Smith,
Yes.
Dr. Baldino,
Yes.
Mr. Cannon,
Yes.
Ms. Donahue,
Yes.
Mr. Early,
Yes.
Mr. Johnson.
Yes.
Like to make a motion to pass K1 bills for payment.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All, discussion?
Yes, I got some questions. The last meeting, I was told that I have to email stuff. So I did. And I got some questions on the answers that I got. So I'd like to ask Joni. Okay, then
I may be
you.
able to address them.
Page 9, King Spry, Herman, Frundon Fall, Legal Services, Special Ed and Right to Know Consulting. Why are we paying lawyers for Right to Know if that is Joni's job? Why aren't we using our own solicitor?
So Kingsbury is the solicitor that we use to help us with the right to know requests. Because sometimes the right to know requests ask for things that we're not sure if we're allowed to give out in the right to know. We want to make sure that we get it right, then we're legal when we respond to the right to know requests.
Why don't we use our own lawyer that we're paying for?
Well, we only pay for David Lindsay for the time that he's with us, just like we do with Kingsbury. We don't have a retainer kind of a system for that. So we use Kingsbury because they have more expertise in that area.
Okay. The other one I had to ask you about was page 12. There's a Novak Educational Consulting for a administrative retreat for $10,000. It says it's paid for with Title II funds. That doesn't matter to me. It's still taxpayer money. But is this part, I asked you before about the Wyndham Resorts at a cost of $58.10. And you were going to give us a presentation on what they did. That never happened.
So, yeah.
But is this $10,000 part of that?
It was the initial part of that. We also, in that $10,000 is consulting throughout the year on the work that we started during the summer.
So is that a $10,000 retreat or a $15,810?
Well, the total together would be the cost for the hotel and the cost for the trainer. Although it's, again, the trainer is not just for that one day. It's for, we have a few days across the school year.
Okay.
May I, Chris?
Yeah.
That would probably be very helpful if someday in the future, the business manager, someone can say, here's the title, and these are the only things we can spend the money on. Because this kind of question comes up.
So we do have plans so that you know both information about our federal programs and what Title I, Title II, and Title IV are.
Sure.
And can be used for. So I'm hoping that'll answer that question. And then in terms of the having the administrators come in and talk about what the retreat was about, we want to get past the start of the year, but it's going to be planned for the October meeting.
I look at it as just because we get that money doesn't mean we should blow it.
Or maybe
It's
something
still
else.
taxpayer money, no matter how you look at it.
I don't believe that we blew it. I believe that we use that money to help support the work that we're doing, both to support our mission, vision, and our profile of the learner.
Okay, because I've heard from some people that said they didn't want to stay all night in State College. They could come home.
And some
And they were not happy about it.
Okay.
That's it. Bro.
Okay. Can I get a vote?
Mr. Scott,
Yes.
Ms. Smith,
Yes.
Dr. Baldino,
Yes.
Mr. Cannon,
Yes.
Ms. Donahue,
Yes.
Mr. Elling,
Yes.
Mr. Johnson,
Yes.
Mr. Knopf, Ms. Smith,
Yeah.
or Ms. Lynch. I'm
Yes.
sorry. Sorry.
Okay,
I'd like to make a motion to pass L1 personnel.
okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, discussion.
Yes,
Go ahead, Chris.
down at the bottom.
What page, please?
I'm getting there. Hold on.
Is it the enrichment or is it the
The second
PDF?
one, the
Okay.
regular. I've got two questions. Let me get down here to it. It's boy, man. First one is approving a kindergarten teaching position.
Okay,
Can we redistrict some kids?
I think that would be extraordinarily disruptive to do that after the school year has started. We are looking at, I'm working with the county to get us an accurate map to show us where students are in comparison to where the school is. But having families move from one school to the other is a fairly long process. And we didn't know that we were going to have these over enrollment issues until right before school.
I just hate to see us keep adding staff.
I hear you. I don't want to either, but I think that it would be worse for our community to try to move students from one school to the other with only a week to go before school starts.
Do we not have anybody that can step in and help out?
I'm not
We
sure what
got,
that would look like.
we're overloaded with staff.
I don't believe that's true.
Why can't we use a teacher's aid? Seems
For
to me.
the classroom. So
to-
there's a
to-
couple of issues with that. The classroom aid doesn't have the training or experience to plan and
certification.
implement the curriculum for
But
kindergarten.
they're
class.
with a teacher, are they not?
well, that's why you need the kindergarten teacher. So that, I mean,
Oh, I guess what I'm saying is I don't think we need to make another class. I think that,
I
you
think
know,
in some situations it makes sense to keep them in the larger number of classes with more students. But as I pointed out in my weekly memos and other discussions that we've had, the physical size of our classes is smaller than kindergarten classes normally are. So just the room to have that many small bodies is already tight. And so when you get up to those 25, 20, 26 numbers with kindergartners, just the physical space is unmanageable. So it's better to have the students in more classrooms, just for the learning of the kids and just to have enough space to get their work done.
it's a hard sell for me.
I just have.
Okay, I
one-
mean,
I
again,
have
I'm
one
I'm coming
question
from a
that-
different environment. I mean,
It's a simple
uh,
question.
Sure.
If we're creating another class,
Mhm.
where are we putting them? Aren't the rooms full?
Not all of the rooms, and it's different in two different schools. So in Mill Hall Elementary, we were able to move some things around. We had a room that was underutilized, and so we reassigned that room so that there would be another space for another classroom. Woodward Elementary is a different situation. We didn't really have a good room that was close by. So in that case, we are having aides in those classrooms to support. And the numbers aren't quite as high there. So, and the classroom's a little bit different. So we can push in some support rather than adding another teacher in Woodward Elementary.
So what happens next year? If you hardly have any kids coming in, what happens then to that position?
Well, we reassess just like we do every year. We look at the number of students that we have and the number of teachers we have, and we do what we can to match those up. We know that we're going to have more retirements at the end of this year, and so we'll look at the attrition and how staff may need to move around. Because of that.
It's just like Bill said, that's a hard sell.
I mean, are you willing to, can we do this as a permanent substitute? Something where we have flexibility in case we don't need it next year.
That
That's
would be a violation of our collective bargaining agreement to do it that way.
wonderful. Okay,
I kind of get that, okay, so this year we're full.
Mhm.
Next year, we don't have as many because baby making stop. So
Yeah.
now our classrooms are smaller and we have a teacher that's now
Well,
going
that-
to take on smaller classes.
Maybe, we don't know that for sure, and it
So-
may be that we need the increase in the number of teachers to move up to first grade to to move along with that.
And will a kindergarten teacher be able to do that?
Yes.
Okay, and,
Based upon their
If-
certifications. They get certain certifications.
okay,
The
If-
flexibility.
sorry, I
I
lost
mean,
my train of thought
The
there.
realistic part, these kindergarten kids are coming from COVID time. And everybody's locked in their house. And then after that went
Oh, yeah.
away, people went back out. So now that the population is going to change.
Next year and the year after is when we expect the increase. So that was 2020. So those students are 4-ish years old, so they're coming up through preschool. We expect to see that bubble year next year and the year after.
Because I mean, that's the reality of what that time frame.
I know what I was gonna ask, Frank, it's
Baby
just
boom of
simply,
the future.
if you decide that we've got a surplus of teachers, does the collective bargaining agreement block getting rid of a teacher, if necessary?
There is specific language in the collective bargaining agreement that echoes state law about what furloughs need to, how furloughs need to work. I don't anticipate that we're going to need that because we do have a significant number of teachers who are approaching retirement age.
All right, I mean, I'm not trying to be a
No,
SOB.
No,
I'm
I-
just,
I
but
agree. Just wanna make sure you understand.
we're spending, again, we're back to wants and needs. I mean, and we argued for a long time tonight about expending money and, we need to think about spending money and then, I mean, let's finish with this discussion, but I want to hear what you have to say about this other one on the thing too, it's the enrichment teacher, and just,
Let me
Okay,
finish.
all right,
what I
hold
said.
on, hold on. Chris, continue.
Next one I have is under transfers. First one, Kathy Muethler,
What page are you on?
page 5.
Okay.
Can she come in as a secretary to tax office? To a benefits secretary? Can we make her the board secretary also, so we have a separate secretary from you? Because I don't feel it's right for Christine to be in a position between the both of us.
I agree.
I agree.
We didn't have that.
We never got a choice.
Yeah,
What
we
are you
talked,
talking about?
if the board says, we want this done, and he says, well, I want to do it this way, she's stuck in the middle. It's not fair or professional to her.
Okay, so
The
what,
board had
all right,
their
what
own
happens on
secretary.
this, what happens on this is, one, we hired him to take care of daily operations.
Yeah,
Okay, now, if we say, we would like him to look at this, or we direct him to look at something, okay? That's what he's gonna do. Okay? Now, if he's telling her he wants her to do something, he is her boss.
yeah,
All right? We don't tell her what to do.
As a board, we
That
do,
is-
as a board
at-
secretary.
as a board, we're both of their bosses.
As a board, she is here, as a board secretary, she is here to take notes and do the roll call.
Then why has the board always had a separate secretary?
Not always. It was just the last one. Previous to that, the board secretary was also the administrative assistant.
You weren't even here. How do you know?
He thought,
History.
it's history, Chris.
I'm
Well,
just trying to take her out of an issue. If everybody says no problem, then fine, that's what the board says. I just hate for her to get trapped in between a disagreement. That's it. I'm looking out for her.
And may I? And there are a lot of, in the legislation, there are a lot of things the board secretary does as far as all of there's financial things. And when I looked at the list in the legislation, it just seems to be a lot.
Correct.
So, and again, I feel that it's.
If she feels that she can't handle it,
Well,
she'll
that's
let
not-
us know.
Well, I
All right?
appreciate
Or
the
she'll
Roger.
Frank know and say, I like to be pulled out of this position, okay?
Like Tracy Long did.
I don't think that's
So-
a fair thing.
No, it's not fair to her.
it's not.
That's not fair to Christine because,
I'm just,
you know,
I agree.
Okay.
The board should have their own secretary, and this might have been a good option for us.
Okay, is there anything else that we can move on with this?
Just to.
She can do all the jobs we're transferring her to. Just add
Yeah,
in
just add to
board
be the board
secretary.
secretary. Yeah, I'm sorry, I miscommunicated that. Was my fault.
We've already hired her.
That's already,
Yeah.
that's a
It's
whole
already-
separate vote. That's a whole
That's
separate
a whole different-
appointment
yeah.
that we do at the beginning of every year.
Yes.
Mhm. So, I did find something in here. The exhibits, the links aren't working, so we can't read the exhibits.
What
On
exhibits are you talking
page 4, I think it is. Yeah, page 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, line 4 and 5. They used to, you don't see the job descriptions.
So one of the job descriptions is actually the in N1. Right, so it's in with the.
The
CTC
enrichment, yes,
secretary.
but
Right.
the CTC secretary.
CTC secretaries in N1 later on in the agenda.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Before,
in the
we always had
And
a link there.
We have actually
Sorry.
already voted on that.
Yes, I'm sorry, that's my fault,
So-
my fault, made a mistake. I just used to, it
Roger,
doesn't
can I
matter.
make one statement?
Go ahead.
I have no side either of this. But we always hear how we have to work together, we have to give.
Correct.
Give and take. And we have given a lot as to creating this teacher, this staff person to Frank's request.
Okay.
We have given that. Chris is asking for the same in return. Wouldn't it be good faith to work together and say, okay, we'll give you this one? You understand
However,
what I'm saying?
I
It's a
hear
give
what
and
you're-
take, it's a give and take.
I hear what you're
Thing.
saying. However,
I'm just
the
asking
board
for
has
the
al-
one give.
the board has already hired her in a position.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll be honest with you, at this point, the way you guys are talking right now, I'm sure that's making her feel really, really uncomfortable.
I
I'm
don't,
just saying, okay?
Because we're trying to protect her.
well,
Yes,
see, you're
Um,
misunderstanding me, because I don't have one side or the other.
She has a job regardless.
yeah.
We're not threatening
Okay.
her job.
All
I'm
right.
not trying to take her job away.
We're
from her.
protecting
I'm
her.
just saying that, and I would love to know her opinion on it.
Okay,
I'd rather
well,
not-
we're not, rather not do this in a public meeting
Right,
here.
right.
All
I'm
right,
just
that would
saying.
be
I
a
would
personnel
agree with that.
issue.
I'm
This
just saying
isn't
All right,
even
so-
related
Take
to,
thing is-
All right, so I'm looking at this here, okay, what's going on with her has nothing to do with what we're actually
Okay.
voting on.
exactly.
All I'm asking is that woman, could she be a board secretary also?
No. That's not the way it's written.
No,
Well, we were never asked.
because it wasn't decided that it needed to be done. Okay. Vote,
Mr. Baldino,
no,
Mr. Cannon,
Personnel committee.
Accepting that.
are we doing just that one that we were
and,
just
no,
discussing?
doing
whole
all,
personnel.
all the things that are in.
The
Oh,
enrichment
the entire
teacher
person.
and.
The
I want-
enrichment teacher, the.
Okay, I have
whole
some
iron
questions about the enrichment teacher. It just seems like, this seems like something that could be done by other people without adding someone.
This is a definition of what we're doing. So this is a job description. This isn't an addition of a person outside of that.
So in other
we-
words, you're gonna, I'm sorry, go ahead.
It's someone who had a different function who moved into this role and we wanted to.
Fine.
find
So
that
you're
role.
just shuffling.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
In that case, okay, yeah.
yes.
Okay,
Isn't
Is that a
what we
yes?
Isn't that what we just had our big
Is that a yes?
conversation about shuffling
Don?
people around?
Oh, I'm sorry. Are we ready for vote?
yeah,
Sure, yeah.
Ms. Donahue,
Yes.
Mr. Elling,
yes,
Mr. Johnson,
Yes.
Mr. Knopf, Ms. Lynch,
Yes,
Mr. Scott,
Yeah,
Ms. Smith.
Yes,
Seven yes, one no.
You didn't ask me.
Oh.
My vote's no.
We thought you said yes. I'm
No.
so sorry.
It's okay.
6-2.
All right. With
I'd like to
that,
Make a motion for adjournment.
do I got a second?
Second.
No.
All right.
No. I'm calling for a quick executive meeting on personnel issue.
Okay, meeting's adjourned. 8:36. All right. Folly, you want to come in here?
I'm here. Do you need to do a new link for an exec
Yeah,
or
we're
what?
gonna have to. All right.
Okay.
All right.
You just